Introducing The Fiber, brought to you by Live Oak Fiber. This open forum is meant to inspire, empower, and set the record straight for consumers and better broadband enthusiasts alike. Hey, thanks for tuning in to The Fiber. I'm your host, Kimber McCafferty, and today I'm joined by Nathan Sparks, Executive Director of One Okaloosa EDC. And I just want you to start with a little bit about your early life and how long you've been doing this and where your passion comes from to stay in the industry, because you've been in it for quite some time.
I have indeed, and thanks for having me today, Kimber. So, I've been in the industry, been in economic development for 25 years this year. Got started as an intern at Oglethorpe University in Atlanta, working as an intern for the Georgia Department of Industry, Trade, and Tourism, and kind of fell in love with how different every day is in economic development. The fact that every project that we work on has its own set of dynamics, its own set of challenges and solutions, and so solving that riddle is really interesting to me. But we get to work with a lot of different people in the world of economic development, from elected leaders to private industry, to workforce development, education partners. Obviously, they're critical. Everybody needs talent, right? Mm-hmm. It's all encompassing. And when you've got a great team like we do at One Okaloosa EDC, it makes it fun.
How long have you been in Okaloosa County?
So got here in 2013, so it's been 10 years now. And, I came here with my family. My son was in first grade. Now he's a junior in high school. So we've gone from that phase to the phase of he's not going to be with us in the house much longer. So, we're amazed at how quickly time moves on. But you ask about my early life. I'm actually originally from Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
And so kind of saw this part of the world as our second home growing up. We loved to vacation on the Emerald Coast. And kind of always had in the back of my mind, if I could have the opportunity to work in paradise one day, that sure would be pretty cool. And so it worked out that way, and very happy to be here.
Well, you answered my next question, what makes Okaloosa County special to you? But you've been coming here since you were a child. It is a beautiful lay of the land to call home. Yeah,
and I actually had the opportunity to work in the area previously. I was prior to this role, I was in Georgia, in another community that's special to Live Oak, in Brunswick in the Golden Isles, yes. And was there for nearly a decade, met my wife there, became a dad there. My in-laws live there on Jekyll Island, so it was and still is a very special place to us. But prior to that, when I was a single guy, I was working for the St. Joe Company,
okay,
based down here, and living in Panama City Beach. So had the opportunity for a few years in my early 20s to work in Northwest Florida, and lo and behold, I had the opportunity to come back.
Nice. What is a day-to-day type deal for you in what you do for One Okaloosa?
Well, so
is each day different?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Really,
yeah.
Is each day is different. I spent the better part of this morning working on a grant application, which doesn't sound that exciting, but it's very exciting because it could lead to new jobs for our area. And so that's one of many things we might be doing at any given time, whether it's hosting a business that's reviewing our community, just like your leadership team did, a year and a half ago. So that's always fun because you get to see the community through a new lens, the perspective of those folks that are just seeing it for the first time in some cases.
You were one of the first people I met.
Yeah.
With ties to Okaloosa County.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So remember it well. But, and then it could be working with an existing business. So much of what we do is focused on supporting our existing businesses with their growth plans, helping them determine how best to tackle an expansion project. So they say that 80% of new jobs come from existing businesses in your community already. So you have to be sure you take care of those companies to make sure that they can sustain long term, and that they have the tools and resources they need to do that. So a lot of our effort is geared toward interface with those CEOs and decision makers as they're contemplating their future expansion opportunities. In some cases, we help them overcome challenges. For instance, during COVID-19, obviously, a lot of companies were facing some challenges,
sure.
And we were working to connect those companies to short-term grant funds and other resources that could assist them in overcoming that very difficult time. So you just never know, what our day may hold, but it's all geared toward economic prosperity and fostering that economic prosperity in our community and in our region. It's very gratifying work. Because, if we're collectively, the big we, if we're successful as a community in doing that, then everybody wins. That's the thing about economic development is if we bring in, a live oak fiber or, a manufacturer like Central Maloney recently made an announcement up at Shoal River Ranch, and they're creating 350 jobs. Well, those jobs ripple through the economy because those people obviously spend their dollars in the local market. They buy homes. They, put deposits in local lending institutions. They eat out in restaurants. They get haircuts. They go to the dry cleaners. And so that's economic development in essence, is creating wealth and creating prosperity.
How much does tourism feed what you do here, given it is such a beautiful area? A lot of people visit this area. When you look at businesses and catering to that part of the business, is tourism a big part of the Emerald Isles, or Emerald Coast?
It really, tourism is huge, obviously. It's our number 2 industry here. Number 1 is defense. Defense accounts for about a $9 billion economic impact on Okaloosa County every year. So tremendous economic engine, but tourism is equally important in many respects because obviously people are coming from outside to spend their hard-earned dollars in our beautiful area, and that money circulates through the economy like I was talking about in restaurants and hotels and, various, entertainment functions that they may engage in while they're here, whether it's renting a boat or, going on a scuba trip or, whatever. So, tourism is important. I will say from our standpoint at One Okaloosa EDC, we don't focus on tourism.
Okay.
So we have an organization that's a sister entity. That's the Okaloosa County Tourism Development Department, also known as the Convention and Visitors Bureau for Destin Fort Walton Beach. And they have that function squarely in their corner, and they are working diligently day in and day out to promote our area, not just domestically, but around the world. And we're seeing more and more international tourism here. I mean, obviously our assets are something that people of all backgrounds really enjoy. The beautiful sugar white sands and the emerald green waters are attractive to a lot of different folks. And so making sure that as many people know about those assets as possible is exactly what they do day in and day out.
Can you circle back some of the layers of defense in which you all help tackle in terms of it being such an economic boost for Okaloosa?
Sure, absolutely. So your viewers may be well acquainted with our mission set here, but for those that aren't, the bottom line is Eglin Air Force Base is a massive installation with numerous mission sets that are really all at the tip of the spear in terms of national security. So Eglin Air Force Base, being the largest Air Force base in the U.S. in terms of geographic area, actually spans 3 counties, not just Okaloosa County, but also Santa Rosa and Walton counties.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I know you all are making some investments in Walton, so that's very exciting.
It is.
But these installations are tremendous economic generators. Eglin Air Force Base is the home of air-delivered weapon systems, research, development, test, and evaluation for air-delivered weapon systems. And so that lends itself to a lot of contracting interest and activity. And so we have over 300 defense contractors in Okaloosa County today. It includes companies that are household names like Boeing and Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman and General Dynamics. 8 of the top 10.
I don't live far from Northrop Grumman, so it's good that you bring. I have friends that travel over here from Northrop Grumman to do contract work. Okay. So it's such an interesting tie when you live in the state of Florida.
Absolutely. So those companies, they employ people at really great wages, very skilled personnel, usually individuals who have security clearances for obvious reasons. Those positions mean a lot to our local area. So we work hard to protect those missions. We have a committee under One Okaloosa EDC called the Defense Support Initiatives, which is really geared toward advocating for our military missions, at the state level and also in Washington, D.C. So every year we put together a legislative priorities paper in concert with our military partners, and that's a list of key priorities that we want to advocate for at the Pentagon and on the Hill. And so we take a small targeted group up to D.C. every year to do just that, to have meetings with our congressional delegation and other key congressional members that maybe aren't from Florida but are on key committees.
Sure.
And then we meet with individuals at the Pentagon. And, a lot of the military construction projects are things that you would expect that we would be advocating for, and you'd be absolutely right. Sometimes it's a language change to allow something that's, currently a hurdle or an impediment to doing something that we need to do from a national security standpoint, or in turn benefiting our local economy and regional economy. So it really can run the gamut. But we have a wonderful relationship with our military partners at Eglin, at Hurlburt Field, at the 7th Special Forces Group, at Duke. Really all of the missions within Okaloosa County, they're all so critical. And having that relationship and having that level of trust with these, military commanders is really where it all starts, because, obviously we've been at this a while. They know that we're serious about what we do in terms of advocating on their behalf. They know that we're effective and we've got results to prove it. And so they also know that we're looking at it both in terms of, hey, we've got to support you all, because you all are critical to our national security, but ultimately you're also critical to our economy. So they get it. They understand that, if we work together, we all win and we all can have a greater impact.
Anything exciting that you can announce that may be coming up in this realm with defense that would be an attraction for Okaloosa?
Well, the missions are always growing here. And that's something that, I learned early on in my time here 10 years ago is, this is a strategic location, really, and it's strategic. And this is an important piece of the puzzle for your viewers to understand. We're right at the tip of the spear in terms of the Eastern Gulf test and training range. The Gulf of Mexico is really, the training and test ground for our military mission set. And so, given our proximity to the Gulf of Mexico, these missions continue to be interested in growing personnel here, growing footprints here, growing additional missions. Obviously, technology is changing rapidly, and so now hypersonics weapon systems require a bigger footprint for testing. So it's imperative that we continue to protect the Gulf of Mexico. That's one thing that we've been advocating for a while now. We don't want to see oil drilling in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, because that can have impact on the military's ability to train and test in an unfettered way. So we're always advocating for the protection of the range and the protection of the Gulf, and it also works well in terms of protecting, our environment, and making certain that what draws people here from a visitation standpoint also is at the forefront of those conversations.
As we segue into investor relations,
Sure.
Can you touch a little bit about investor relations, your role with that, and what that's like for Okaloosa?
Thank you. Yeah, so we're a 501c6 nonprofit corporation. We're a public-private partnership, and we've been around since 1989 at One Okaloosa EDC, and we have wonderful partnerships with our public sector partners, like Okaloosa County, the Okaloosa County Board of County Commissioners. We couldn't do what we do without their support, and that of our municipalities here in Okaloosa County. But we also have private sector investors like Live Oak Fiber, and thank you for that. And, I think that's the best of all worlds, because, we have obviously both public and private sector leaders at our table, and the private sector leaders are able to provide input on strategies and making certain that we continue to bring in the right investors into One Okaloosa EDC that understand the value of economic development, understand that, we're ultimately working for the greater good. That is imperative. And so, what we find is, once we have an opportunity to educate a decision maker, a local leader that may not be involved with us on what we're up to and the various aspects of our mission, 9 times out of 10, they get it. They understand, hey, a rising tide truly lifts all ships. And so, it's not a difficult sell to get companies involved in One Okaloosa EDC. We do have a variety of levels that companies can participate at, whether it's a sole proprietor, a mom and pop, or a Fortune 100 company, depending on their level of interest. We've got a fit for them. And, I think it speaks volumes when we sit with a decision maker that's considering our area from somewhere else. Maybe they're looking to expand like you all did or relocate. And they see this long roster of companies and public sector leaders that are partners of ours, that are investors in One Okaloosa EDC. They see that this community values economic development, and that, we have a lot of partners that are supportive of our mission and that are aligned with us to grow this economy. And that, that's the type of community that most people want to be affiliated with.
Absolutely.
So,
what are some of the key factors that make Okaloosa attractive for investor relations?
Well, I would say, Okaloosa County, in terms of our value proposition, when we're talking to businesses about investing in Okaloosa County, really a couple things. They look at the fact that we are a community that can supply technical talent, and that's not something that every community can say. And it goes back to our military, because we do have 1,300 men and women who transition out of Eglin and Hurlburt and the related missions here in Okaloosa County every year. So there are 1,300 men and women that are technically skilled, that 99% of whom have security clearances if companies value that. And these are individuals who, in many cases, have fallen in love, like I have, with living in paradise. Their kids are in school here, like mine is, and they know that the schools here in Okaloosa County are top 5 in the state of Florida among 67 Florida counties. So there are a lot of reasons that keep military members here, provided that the right job opportunities are here. So when we sit with someone that's contemplating whether to locate here or another community, that particular piece really resonates. Particularly right now, we know so many companies are struggling with talent and where to find it and how to retain it and all those things. And so being able to speak to a military workforce demographic that is second to none, truly, in terms of skill set, but also think about, military members are known for being very mission-focused. They're known for being very dedicated to the task at hand, and you don't have to worry about them showing up on time. You don't have to worry about them passing a drug test. And so all those things that you want in, your workforce are found in our military talent. So that's huge. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect is the fact that we've talked about, we have a community that is very supportive of business and economic development. Our tax burden here in Okaloosa County is among the lowest in the state of Florida. And Florida as a whole is the 4th best tax environment according to the Tax Foundation nationwide. So, the business side of it, Florida makes good financial sense, and Okaloosa County especially makes good financial sense for businesses. We have infrastructure. We're equidistant between 2 ports, 50 miles in either direction, the Port of Panama City, the Port of Pensacola. Port of Mobile is just 100 miles away, a little bit further. Port of Jacksonville, obviously Interstate 10 bisecting our county. Just a lot of different, from transportation to workforce to overall business climate factors that really seem to resonate for the companies we're talking to.
And the quality of life is just the icing on the cake.
There's always that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we find that when we get companies to come and visit and to see firsthand and to see what this community is all about, it's not a difficult sell to have them think about, hey, this is a place I could really see myself and my family thriving.
No, not at all. It's beautiful here. When we touch on existing industry growth and entrepreneurship, what does Okaloosa do to lend way in support of these things for businesses?
So, small business is the backbone of our economy, like it is for so many places. Nearly 90% of our companies, and we've got about 13,000 registered companies in Okaloosa County, but nearly 90% of those have fewer than 10 employees. And so we have to, make certain that we're caring for small businesses, that we're providing an environment where they can establish themselves and thrive, and that there are the right tools and resources available to them to do that. So we have a website called Startup Okaloosa. Startup Okaloosa is basically an online, think of it as an online incubator, an online small business incubator where you can get an anthology of information if you're a small business or entrepreneur, even if you're just starting out or if you just have an idea and you haven't even actually gone further than that. There are resources out there that kind of, point you in the right direction as to the next steps, from mentoring, finding the right mentor, to finding, what business support organizations are available to you, to, when you're ready to select an accountant or, find an attorney that can assist you with getting established. We have all of these curated resources out there. So it's an information repository, but we also post content out there that is of value. And recently we unveiled our Veteran Entrepreneur video series where we interview veterans that in most cases came through Eglin or Hurlburt or one of our military missions here, and then ultimately had an idea And sometimes that idea relates to something they did in the military. In some cases, it has nothing to do with something they did in the military, and they just wanted to do something completely different. Maybe they wanted to open a bakery, and we've got a couple of examples of people who've done that. There's one fellow who owns an ice cream shop that's very successful. And so being able to, hear from those businesses, veteran businesses in this case, about their experience, the lessons they learned along the way, the things that they would recommend to their fellow veterans or soon-to-be veterans if they're still in the military, that they think about and work on as they're establishing themselves, that's invaluable.
Sure.
So there's nothing like, having, somebody who's already been there and done that give you some pointers, some tips of the trade. So that's what our Veteran Entrepreneur video series does. Again, it's on startupokaloosa.com. And we've added 3 videos this year. We're going to add 3 more this next year. We did 3 in the first year. So we're building that repository of training videos. And those videos, they're not just, I will say it's not just veterans that are watching those. The information that they share is relevant to anybody who is just starting out.
You weaved this nicely into my next topic, which is new business attraction. Mm-hmm. So you have existing people that have worked in this market that have great ideas that start new businesses, and that's probably one portion of your new business attraction. It sounds like, I don't know how big of a portion it is, but when you look at new business attraction as a whole, how does that work for Okaloosa County? So,
again, having the right value proposition is critical, just like it is with any business, and being able to relate that set of solutions to the needs of the businesses that we're focused on. So for us, we have targeted industry sectors that we're focused on. So advanced manufacturing. We all know the importance of manufacturing and the fact that, depending on what economist you ask, manufacturing, for every manufacturing job created, another 3 to 5 to 6 jobs is created, depending on, again, the sort of specialty of manufacturing. But bottom line is it has a tremendous indirect component because those dollars circulate so much through the economy. And so manufacturing is one of our targeted sectors. Aerospace, aviation, and defense-related items, also a key target sector for us. We have the Bob Sykes Airport in Crestview, which is a true industrial airport with an 8,000-foot runway. We've got companies up there already that are utilizing that asset, companies like Crestview Aerospace and Vertex Aerospace and Lockheed Martin and Vertol Systems and Sunshine Aero and Emerald Coast Aviation. I mean, these are great employers employing, skilled individuals at excellent wages, but we want more. We want to see more companies select Okaloosa County that are involved in those sectors. And again, because of the workforce demographics with our separating military, a lot of the skill sets that those individuals have pertain to things that are in the commercial aerospace sector. And so we're actively promoting Okaloosa County to those companies in a variety of forms, trade shows, digital media, et cetera. So aerospace and defense. Technology, also a very critical component, and you all are making that even that value proposition even stronger by the infrastructure you're bringing to bear. But the reality is, we have a lot of technology jobs, particularly in southern Okaloosa County, that are primarily homegrown businesses like Beast Code. Matt Zimmerman and his partners, we joke that Matt is our version of Mark Zuckerberg. He even wears a hoodie, and he's, I think, 30 years old and extremely bright. Went to the University of West Florida. And built a company that started with a few guys around a card table, the very common story you hear in the tech world, and now has grown to north of 200 employees. Basically taking virtual reality technology, gaming technology, and applying it to DoD applications such as training for U.S. Navy personnel. So now those individuals that are preparing to set sail on a naval vessel have the opportunity to actually walk on that ship virtually.
Wow.
Before they actually set foot on it, and to manipulate systems and things of that sort before they actually have to do it in the heat of the moment. So great story there with a tech company that has proven that you don't have to be in Silicon Valley or Raleigh or any other major tech hub. You can do those things right here. So those 3, advanced manufacturing, aerospace, defense, aviation, and technology, tend to be where a lot of our focus is. Now, that's not to say that if we get contacted by a company that falls outside of those industry sectors, that we're not going to do everything we can to help them and make sure that they find a home here in Okaloosa County. But in terms of our targeted efforts, that tends to be where we spend most of our time.
Which links nicely to sites, buildings, infrastructure, and incentives, and your product development portion with One Okaloosa. Can you touch a little bit on that for us?
Sure, yeah. So, if all the marketing in the world won't make up for not having the right product, right? And so that's a commitment that we made soon after I got here, that we needed to really accelerate our available inventory of industrial land. And, the county has, like I said, a tremendous asset in the Okaloosa Industrial Air Park that's been around for many years, and the Okaloosa Bob Sykes Airport there, is a major draw. But we didn't have property 10 years ago that could accommodate really anything larger than about 20 acres.
Okay.
And so we set out to identify larger sites that were, offering the types of amenities that we know industrial decision makers are looking for, the right infrastructure mix, access to transportation, et cetera. And so from that came the Shoal River Ranch Gigasite, which is a 10,500 acre site located on U.S. Highway 90, 7 miles east of downtown Crestview. And the site has rail access on Florida Gulf and Atlantic Rail. It's adjacent to Interstate 10, so there's future possibility of an interchange there at Interstate 10. It's 7 miles from an existing interchange, but really just a beautiful piece of property that years ago was a cattle ranch, more recently has been a timber farm, and now is an industrial park. We had an agreement with the prior owner to market that for a couple of years, and we saw more significant economic development interest in that time than we had seen in the past. And it was because we had the right site. We had a site that could accommodate a very large footprint manufacturing facility or distribution complex or what have you. We could really, work with a blank canvas and say, oh, yeah, sure, we got, you need 250 acres, no problem, as opposed to before we weren't even in those conversations. And so our county commission, again, my hat's off to them. They took a bold step in optioning 1,600 acres of property there within Shoal River Ranch. That was a 3-year option. They ultimately moved forward with purchasing a little more than 500 acres of that, 588 acres to be exact, and they've since purchased an additional 260 acres. So the county, as of today, has about 1,000 acres at the Shoal River Ranch Gigasite that they are, working with us to continue to prepare for accelerated development. And we have worked successfully in partnership with the county to secure a couple of different grants, one through Triumph Gulf Coast. And I know you're aware, but for those that might not be, Triumph Gulf Coast is basically the BP oil spill money. Our state set aside 75% of the $2 billion settlement, that's billion with a B, for the 8 counties that were disproportionately affected by the BP oil spill back in 2010. And that became a fund called Triumph Gulf Coast that's overseen by a board here in Northwest Florida for these 8 counties, including Okaloosa, to use for economic development, workforce development, et cetera. And so the county applied for a grant to extend water and sewer to Shoal River Ranch. It was 4 miles away, so it wasn't just right next door. And so the county got a grant, and now that water and sewer line is adjacent and able to provide service at Shoal River Ranch. So there's that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's one other grant that we received, which is from Governor DeSantis to really complete infrastructure into the first phase, which includes a road and all the things that go with an industrial park, signage, hardscape, landscape, those types of things. So it's really going to begin to take shape here over the next year as a result of that fund award from Governor DeSantis.
A fun side note, I used to work with Casey.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, Casey and I were both reporters and anchors in Jacksonville, Florida, well over 20 years ago, but I used to work with her very closely.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is. If you live here long enough, it's like you're 6 degrees of separation.
No doubt about it.
So just how widespread is your workforce development and talent attraction? I know we've talked about tech and military, but I would imagine the breadth of your footprint is even bigger than that. So how widespread is it?
Well, so you're right. I mean, we have excellent relationships with our school district, and the school district has done yeoman's work for many years now, particularly as it pertains to career and tech education. They have an anthology of programs, including manufacturing and technology programs, as well as other health-related and various programs that are setting young people up with certifications before they even get their high school diploma. In some cases, we've got middle schoolers that are earning certs now, which is amazing. And we're talking, Cisco certs and, Google certs and Microsoft
how times
certs.
have changed.
No kidding.
Right?
So, yeah, and these are all free, of course, because it's
Why
part of their
wouldn't you?
curriculum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my son got an Adobe certification last year, and, I'm amazed. But
Great for the resume.
absolutely, and for your future, the more exposure you have to these types of things, the better your odds of success long term. So, I think it's wonderful. And so, working with our career and education folks, both at the school district level at Northwest Florida State College, which is really all in on economic development, the University of West Florida, as well as our partners at CareerSource Okaloosa Walton, we've got, I think, as good of a workforce strategy and litany of partnerships as anybody. I would put us up against anybody, including larger markets.
I'm impressed.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this has been a delight. I'm impressed. I'm learning a lot.
Well,
So,
we're finding that because our community, you referenced it. I mean, it's not. We're 215,000 people, so it's not a small community, but it's also not so large that we're siloed, where you have workforce development partners that are only focused on their specific mission set, and they don't coordinate or interrelate with the other pieces of that puzzle. So we have a very good collaborative effort here that is paying off.
community development.
Yeah.
On top of all of that, as we kind of, I guess wrap up because we've run through the gamut today.
Good, yeah.
Community development. What's next for Okaloosa? What can people expect?
Yeah, so community development, that's, so these goals that we've touched on today, Kimber, they all are things that came from our strategic plan. And we do strategic planning in 3-year increments. And so we developed this plan that we've reviewed here in August of 22, so it's a little bit more than a year old. And it took effect a year ago in October of 22. And so the community development goal of the 7 is a brand new goal. The others are similar to past plans and have been, reworked and tweaked and updated. But community development as a goal for us did not exist until this most recent strategic plan. And the reason for that is we recognize that things like workforce and attainable housing, broadband access, child care access, all of these things that make up a true sustainable community that is able to, accommodate, what we feel is important, both now and well into the future. That's critical, and we have to have a plan. Those things don't just happen, right? And, granted, One Okaloosa EDC is one of many partners that's working to solve these challenges. But we have a piece of this, and we're, even if we're just convening and supporting, bringing people together and supporting those who have the point, that we need to be a part of that because we know the businesses that we're working to assist with growth in Okaloosa County, be they existing businesses that have been here for generations, or be they businesses that we haven't yet identified that are going to locate here in the next few years.
Right.
They have certain expectations and they have certain requirements, and we have to be mindful of that. So, attainable housing is a big topic right now, not just here, but in a lot of places, especially in beautiful coastal communities where prices have gone through the roof, right?
I'm in St. Johns County.
So you get
yeah.
it. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. It's great for those of us who live here and see what the value of our home is on paper.
But for the newcomers.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's the issue. And how do we get after that? And kudos again to Okaloosa County Board of County Commissioners right now. They're putting the finishing touches. Their consultants are putting the finishing touches on a attainable housing strategic plan, which will hopefully give us some actionable steps to implement over the near term, midterm, and long term to ensure that this community can accommodate people at all levels of the socioeconomic spectrum. We don't want to just be a community where you have to make a certain wage to live here. That's not a sustainable model. And so that being said, we're optimistic. We know there's a lot of work to be done. There's some interesting conversations taking place right now, particularly with our military, because the military, we touched on them extensively, but again, they're looking to grow here. They employ, 20,000 people here already, more or less.
That live here.
Right, that live here.
And subsequently have families here.
And keep in mind, most people that are service members don't live on base. They live in our community. They're our friends and neighbors that we go to school and church with and whatnot. So, only about 10% of the military personnel live on base. 90% live in the community. So the military has the same need that the civilian community has for good quality, affordable housing. And so being able to solve that impacts so much of our economy, including our defense partners. So again, I'm optimistic about that. The child care issue we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic, how many child care facilities were not able to continue operating. Some chose to close, not just here, but nationwide. So we have a shortage of child care facilities in this community. Our military members have some on-base child care, but not enough. Mm-hmm. So they have opportunities to utilize private sector child care out in the community. And so we're working to try and combine all that need into a value proposition to get some other child care providers into our area so that, that's not a weakness for the long term. Because we know, again, if you're thinking of if you're a two-wage earner family, both mom and dad are working, and you have a child, and you can't get that child into a quality child care environment, that one of those individuals in that relationship may choose to leave the workforce and to stay home with that child. Which obviously, if that's a choice, then great. But if it's something they feel they have no alternative to do, because they can't find childcare, then that's a problem, because we want everybody who wants to be in the workforce to have that opportunity, and for childcare to not be a limiting factor in that.
Mm-hmm. I know, when we started talking about telehealth not being available, say during the pandemic, or even over in Glenn County where our headquarters are, online education struggled. Just how crucial was it for an internet service provider to say, okay, this market's fertile. It'd be great to set up here and really make a change in the lives of people that wouldn't experience this otherwise. How crucial was this decision? I know it was for us, but would you say for the community at large?
Oh, it was huge.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And, certainly adding to that overall infrastructure of our area, as you all have, it's worth a ton to us, and to have, alternatives. We're a believer in free market dynamics, right? And for people to have choice, and for people to be able to choose something that they think is the right solution for them. So you all have offered that by coming into our market, and we couldn't be more appreciative of that.
Well, we love being here. When is it a natural time for people to reach out to One Okaloosa, whether it's for growth development or whether it's for business? What is the natural relationship like between you and your consumer-facing side of what you do?
Yeah, so, we have, an office in Fort Walton Beach on the campus of Northwest Florida State College, University of West Florida, the shared campus there. Our doors are always open. We're kind of hidden in the back. We're in Building 7, but we welcome anybody coming by. But, obviously there's a lot of information about us as to how to get involved, and if anyone's interested in, joining the organization as an investor, that type of information is online at oneokaloosa.org, O-R-G. We have a number of activities that we would encourage folks to consider getting involved in. We're not an event-heavy organization. There are only 3.5 of us, and so we have to be mindful of how we divvy up our time based on the responsibilities that we've covered today. But we do have a couple of signature events throughout the course of the year, from roundtable breakfasts that we do that are open to anybody who's interested in coming, as well as our signature event, our Techman Industry Day.
I was about to bring it up, because we're going to be a part of that.
Yes.
We're definitely there to support you this year.
Absolutely, and we appreciate that very much. So for those that don't know, Techman Industry Day, Technology Coast Manufacturing Engineering Network is what Techman stands for. and we're now entering our 7th year. Techman's been around since '89.
I heard it's a blast.
Well, you need to come this year.
I know. I
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to come
Yeah.
last year. So this year, let's make it happen, because I know Steve had a good time, our
Right.
CRO,
Yep.
our marketers were
Yep.
on site. What do people need to know that they can experience in attending your Techman event?
So Techman Industry Day, obviously, as the name would indicate, it's heavy on technology, manufacturing, engineering, a lot of defense contractor presence. We'll have presentations, panels, workshops, but the centerpiece of it all is our expo hall. And we call it a technical showcase, usually about 50 or so exhibitors, not just local, not just regional. In fact, we draw exhibitors from around the country, and we're very proud of that. So companies that are interested in doing business with our military partners or doing business with the existing businesses here come to our area. And it's May 15th, so it's a beautiful time to come and visit our community for those that don't live here. And we will have room blocks at hotels on Okaloosa Island. All this information, by the way, is at techmanindustryday.com. Right now, booth sales are open. We haven't opened individual registration yet, but last week we did open early bird registration for booths. And again, we really appreciate Live Oak once again stepping up and being one of our sponsors. You all are our reception sponsors, so
Yes.
that'll be fun.
We like to have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
No, May 15th, I'll be there this year. I can't
Excellent.
wait to attend it. So I can't thank you enough. You are extremely a wealth of knowledge for anyone listening. So this has just been fantastic today.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it too.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan. Thank you for tuning in. To learn more about Live Oak Fiber, visit liveoakfiber.com and feel the flow.